Hello, wonderful learners. Welcome to episode 8 of Data Analysis with Excel. If you are new, please hit the subscribe button and follow every single video on this tutorial. We'll be tackling pivot tables in Excel. Let's get right into it. So what is pivot tables? Pivot tables are the secret weapon you've been missing out. So in just a few clicks, you can turn boring data into insight where you can see some columns and then rows intersecting to tell stories, all without writing a single formula. Let's see how it is done. So we are presented with a data on the sales and also the region, the date, the salesperson, the product, total sales, and units sold of a particular enterprise. So normally pivot tables go along with pivot chart, but for the sake of our tutorials, we'll be tackling pivot tables in this episode. In our next episode, we'll also cover pivot chart, which are always in line, right? So we normally see pivot charts coming out from pivot tables. So we take one at a time. Okay, so basically we use pivot tables to summarize our data without writing long formulae. So before we start building, let us understand what a pivot table actually is. So it's a dynamic summary of your data, a tool that lets you drag and drop fields to calculate totals, counts, average, and more without writing a single formula. Okay, so we have this data set here. We can practically do some pivot tables to broaden our understanding on a subject matter. So you can click anywhere in your data to begin. You click anywhere, you go to insert. We have pivot table here. Click on that. So this dialog box, normally we choose new worksheet to have our data table, the pivot table on a new data sheet. So we click on OK, and then there's a new sheet created. We can rename it as our pivot table. So we have that here. Okay, so let's see something. Let's click anywhere outside the data and then insert pivot tables. So it says data source reference is not valid. Okay, so you have to always click inside any part of the data to do your pivot table. So at the extreme right, we have the pivot table fields. Okay, this is where we normally do everything to reflect in our pivot table. So because we clicked in our data, we have all our data heads here: the date, the region, the product, the sales, the salesperson, the unit sold, total sales, and whatever column head you have in your data. All right, so we have this blank space for our pivot table where whatever we do here will reflect in here. Okay, so let's try to summarize total sales by region. We want to know every particular region in our dataset, the total sales in there, without writing complex formula. So we want to know total sales in region. So we take our region and we drop it in the rows. So now at the extreme left, you have row labels as east, north, south, and west. And these are the regions you have in our dataset: north, south, east, and west. Okay. Now we want to know the total sales in every region. So we come to total sales and you take that to values because that's what you want to see. So now we have regions and their sum of total sales. Okay. So East have 26,000, North has 38,000, South has 27,000, and West has 9,100. So you have dragged the necessary column heads into the respective fields to get a very nice summary of your data where you can quickly write your insights and then you move on to the next analysis you want to do. So you see how quickly Excel summarizes all sales by region without using some formula anywhere. You just drag the needed columns and then you have your summary. So you can equally edit this and now change the values appearing over here. We can also add more dimensions. So let's add product, okay, to our pivot table. So now we have an extended matrix here where we have columns holding our product, headphones, laptop, smartphone, tablet, and also the rows being the regions. So the table shows a matrix where we have region rows by product columns. Okay, so every region we can see the product being sold. We have East headphones, laptop, giving us a grand total of 26,000. North we have headphones, laptops. South we have smartphones, and then West we have tablets. And every column 2 has its own total. So headphones we have 7,000, laptop we have 5,000, no 57,000, smartphone we have 27,000, and tablet we have 9,100. All summing up to this final total. So this cross tab view lets us compare multiple dimensions at once. We can add more dimensions or some filters. So in this filter column, we can filter out the salespersons in each sales category. So the moment you added salespersons over there, you have it here. And remember, in sheet 1, we have John, Alice, James. Yeah, so we can filter out Alice, press OK. So with this, we know that Alice sells headphones in East with total of 4,000, headphones in North 3,000, smartphones in South 12,000. We can filter out every interested person and we see their activities. Okay, so that's the filter. So when you click on this drop down arrow, you will see field settings. Over here, you can change the functions you want. You have the sum, we have the count, we have the average, we have the maximum, we have the minimum, we have the product. So in case the values you want to know the count, you can change it from sum to count. You press OK. See the values are different from the sum. You can find the average. You can use the average. You also have it here and so on. So you can change to whatever function that suits your analysis. You can also try to add date to our work. So we can add dates to the rows so that in each region we can see the total sales with respect to the date. So we can add date to the rows, and now we have East, January, February, North, January, February, South, January, February. So it all depends on what you are looking out for. When you look at January, we have 10,000 for laptop. When you look at February, we have 4,000 in place of headphones and now 12,000 in place of laptop. It all depends on what you're looking for in your data. And pivot tables makes it very, very simple to play around with your data, having seamlessly nice appearance without any complex function. So with this, in our next video, we'll be having something similar to this, where we add a pivot chart to visualize what you're seeing in our table graphically. Okay. So this data will be given in a comment section where you'll be able to download and also practice on your own. So while practicing, I would like you to also work on some simple pivot tables where you create a pivot table showing the units sold by product. Okay, so each product you show the units sold. You can do that very simple. Also, you can group them by month and add units sold. Also add the average units sold. Okay, just play around the filters and see how the values changes. So basically, pivot tables summarize data without formulae. We use the drag and drop fields, columns, values, and filters to just change the view of our pivot table. You can group, you can filter, you can calculate new metrics easily. Let me try one of the metrics I'm just talking about, adding new metric to our pivot table. So when you come to the analyze, you see fields, items, and sets. You click on this and you choose on calculated field. Click on that. Okay, so you can name your field. What are we doing? Maybe you want to know the average sale per unit. So we have average sale per unit. And how do we know the average sale per unit? The formula is going to be total sales per or divided by unit sales. So we have total sales, okay, in our work, we have total sales divided by unit sold. So total sales divided by unit sold give us the sale per unit. Okay, and now we can use filters to change the function we want into average so that I can get the average sale per unit. And what do you want to find for? We use click, add, okay, press OK. So now we have sum of total sales, sum of average sale per unit. Okay, so if there's no value there, it gives us this, but some have the answers for us. Sum of average per unit, we have 1,000 for east, we also have 1,000 for north based on the amount. So we have added or calculated a new field in addition to our pivot table. Basically, this is how we add fields and items and sets onto our pivot tables. Now that you have mastered pivot tables, in our next video, we will talk about pivot chart, okay, where we apply the slicer, timeline, and other features you can see in the pivot table tools. Okay, and right after that, you'll be able to apply them in building an interactive dashboard in later episodes to come. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson and learned everything on the pivot table as a beginner to build upon to the advanced level. See you next time. Remember, subscribe to the Inorganic Institute for more videos that will broaden horizon on data analytics and then push you through so you become an advanced data analyst in our world now. Bye bye.